Rob, this guy is the absolute single, undeniable, complete, without doubt, worst commissioner in Major League sports. He's an absolute cancer to Major League Baseball. And as long as they got this guy sitting in the chair, baseball is fucked.
I don't even know what to add to that. But I will say this.
Because I got it. I nailed it in one sentence.
You did. I mean, basically, like, there you go. But I think the thing is, when you talk about this topic, and I saw this, Ed, I'm glad you brought it up, because this was such an enormous transgression. Like, this was to give these guys immunity was so fraudulent and so damaging, and should have been actually even more damaging than it actually was to a lot of those players. Because what ended up happening was all those players that were ratting everybody out, they were ratting out, like, for instance, Alex Cora, because you know why? Because Alex Cora was no longer in the organization. They were ratting out other people that they didn't have to worry about. They weren't really ratting out each other. They knew that that they weren't going to get hit. And so when spring training rolls around in 2020 and all this shit hits the fan, and then all of a sudden people are like, Correa is like, what are you talking about? Why should I feel bad about this? Well, they should have all felt bad about it, because everybody knew that they took advantage of that immunity that Manfred gave them, which he shouldn't have given them. And they did exactly what he was hoping they do, which is, here you go, here's all the information, and now we're going to suspend all these people, even though they were a fraction of the people who actually did this. It was so screwed up how you cannot do an investigation on your own without giving these people immunity, who, by the way, think about this, guys. You're giving the people immunity who are the people who did the crime.
The cheats.
The cheats. Like, these are the people who executed the crime. Sure, Alex Cora was part of it, and he got popped, and he should have got popped. No question about it. Hinch, same thing. But these guys were the ones who were actually cheating, and you are giving them the immunity. How does that make any sense at all?
Let's bring this in. Pete, come on in here, because I got another question to follow up. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, but we see this in all walks of life, and I hate to use this term, but isn't this like a microcosm of society? If you just watch it, just in politics or over decades, not just now, decades, or it's a microcosm of society. You watch, shows like 24 back in the day, President Palmer, President Taylor. Every time they got the bad guy, what happened? Yes, we'll give you immunity. You just rat out everybody, and we'll find the bombs and the illegal the weapons and everything, mass destruction, and we'll keep you out of jail. So, I mean, this is going on for centuries, I think. Immunity is always given in all forms of life. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I agree with everything you guys just said, everything. But immunity is a microcosm of life. If you rat somebody out, you get a free pass.
But Pete, here's a difference: is that a lot of times that happens. You want to cut the head off the snake, right?
Yes.
You want to get to the big guy, the guy who's pulling all the strings. Well, in this case, the people who were pulling the strings were everybody. It wasn't like Jim Crane. Like, Jim Crane got off on this. I mean, really, like, if you want to lump all this together and the buck stops here mentality, have the franchise taken away from them. But really, like, this wasn't a case of give us the information so we can get to the head guys. All right, well, you got to Alex Cora, you got to AJ Hinch, you got to Jeff Luhnow. They were all part of it, sure, but they were no more part of it, I think, than the people actually cheating. They're just doing it in a different way.
No, I agree. And then you go back to a couple of years earlier, Rob, and which was it? Houston cracking into St. Louis Cardinals files?
Oh, yeah. No, the Cardinals got, yeah.
The Cardinals cracked into the Houston Astros file. I mean, that story never gets really brought up anymore. I think that is just
a good point. That's something that baseball has shoved to the back real quick. They don't want anybody to talk about that at all.
Yeah, but that was a huge deal back in the day.
The guy went to jail. I mean, I think the guy went to jail.
But here's the thing about this, though, Rob. And if you look at this, Manfred is admitting that he screwed up. And, of course, everybody knew he screwed up in the first place. But this isn't the first time from this clown. This guy needs to put a rubber nose on and walk around on a regular basis and tell everybody, I'm commissioner of baseball. Go ahead, take a quick shot at me and use the big rubber mallet, if you will. Everything this guy gets involved in is an absolute freaking disaster. Look what's going on now with the A's, maybe to Vegas. Don't know about expansion, the new rules, the time it took to get there. I mean, what will it take to kick this son of a bitch out of office and give baseball somebody who actually knows how to run the sport?
Well, I think that the problem too, and you mentioned the A's situation, is that, and we see this with Goodell,
Yes.
is that it becomes such a so transparent what their real job is, which is to protect the owners, right? I mean, Goodell, there's no better example of this. And he just like says, hey, you know what? Fine. You know, I'm making $40 million a year. I'm going to keep protecting the owners. Too bad. Go suck on it. You know, so it's, you know, but, you know, with Manfred, you hear about this A's situation, letting Fisher get the franchise initially. And it was his buddy. Like, this is his buddy. We're seeing this all the time. I think that, and Ed, you bring up a good point, because yes, we all know what the commissioner's motivations are. But in this case, the Houston Astros, which was just an unbelievable, utter, and complete mess across the board, they didn't know how to handle it. And how they handled it? Poorly. They did a terrible, terrible job. And this isn't calling the championship trophy a piece of metal. No, this is something where you had to get right, and you didn't get right.
How could they not know what the right thing to do is? I mean, every single person, you, me, Pete, we can look at it and go, oh, you got to punish these guys. Oh, you got to do it this way. How can they not know? And how can anyone, boy, I'm asking a lot of really easily answered questions here. I mean, how can anybody allow this guy to stay in power?
Well, Rob can attest to this. I'm sure he got other opinions from the disciplinary people, right, in MLB, just like all major sports have. And maybe he just said, no, man, he could have been advised, hey, you need to suspend these guys for half a season or a whole season or whatever it is. And I don't know, Rob, I mean, maybe they just didn't listen to him. Maybe they want to go down that road.
Yeah, and well, it comes back to exactly what we're saying, is that when you did this, it's very simple. And Ed, I'm not arguing with what you're saying about Manfred. Like, I'm just, you know, this is if you're putting something, if you're judging a commission, brings
it all up. It's like the hate that brings it up. Right. You piece of shit, ruining the sport.
But you know what? And you go to this Time magazine article, if I'm him, like, I know he's trying to be genuine. Just don't say anything. Talk around it. Yeah. Because what this does, it dredges it all up again. And the problem is that you still have the guy that I wrote the book with. You know, we did Joe Kelly. We had, this was a perfect instance of it, where, you know, when he had the thing with the Astros coming out of 2020, he wasn't on the Dodgers when he got the World Series taken from him. But now he was on the Dodgers. And why did he take offense to, you know, Bregman and Correa and these guys when he's throwing near them? And why is he doing that? Because those are the guys that got off scot-free and were showing no remorse about it. And they should have never been allowed to do that. And I saw Middleton, a relief pitcher for the White Sox, just the other day say the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Said, a lot of my friends careers were ruined because those guys were cheating. So those guys showing no remorse and those guys getting immunity, I'm sorry, I'm never going to get over it. And Manfred's to blame for that.
No, absolutely. I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
Is it fair to say, though, Rob, that the general fan will read this article, will see it, and they will shovel it off to the side, and it will become basically dust in the wind in no time? Because to the casual fan right now, while attendance has not really risen exponentially across the board, the new rules are actually doing a good job. You're getting to see games in 2 hours and 15 minutes. They seem to be a little more exciting. The fans haven't revolted about it. I mean, yeah, the purists don't like it, but it would seem that the rules and the rule changes are, in essence, saving the game and keeping these clowns protected because they're at least giving the fans something else to talk about, and they don't really see the bullshit that goes on at this level.
Yeah, I think it's a great point by you. This article came out, yesterday, or the news of it came out yesterday?
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about. I mean, we're talking about it. We should talk about it. But this isn't like, and maybe there'll be a groundswell. But I think with the Houston Astros situation, I know like a friend of mine, Evan Drellick, wrote. He broke the story. He wrote this book. It came out, and I said, Evan, this is a good book. It's very well researched, but this is a historical document. There's nothing there that goes from here. There's no advancing of this story. And I think that we've come it's been so long, perceived so long since this stuff happened, and one of the darkest days of baseball, but still we move on. And Ed, to your point, it's the here and the now. It's what have you done for me lately? It's the feel good of 2.5-hour games. It's all of a sudden, by the way, like I can say this, in having distributed the T-shirts that Pete's wearing right now, I can say this, that it feels like this is one of the best baseball seasons I've ever witnessed because of these rules. And so that's what people are soaking in. They're not like, oh man, like I want to dredge up the Astros thing again.
Also,
Yeah, but
it's Major League.
Go ahead,
also,
Pete. I'm going to follow.
It's Major League Baseball. I promise you, if this was an NFL story, it'd be superseding the NBA draft all over TV tonight. It would be.